In this video, we're discussing the pros and cons of stereo versus mono subwoofers, my disastrous experience with stereo subwoofers, and what may be quite a serious issue with the new Trinnov Nova. Hi, I'm Thorne. It's good to see you. So this is the first video in a series of short studio updates containing information about optimizing room acoustics, speaker sound, and mix translation that will hopefully be helpful to you guys. If you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, you'll know about a year ago I bought the PSI A23M studio monitors. Phenomenal speakers. Later in the year, I expanded this system to a four-way system with PSI A125 subwoofers. The benefits of adding mono or stereo subwoofers to a system include deeper bass extension lower into the frequency range beyond what your speakers can produce, an increase in output power and volume of the system, and it helps alleviate the workload of the speaker woofers so they can deliver low mid-range information more accurately. A stereo subwoofer system provides the additional advantage of monitoring stereo bass information, such as bass synths, and even more system power and volume. The disadvantages of stereo versus mono are obviously the additional cost, the space requirements, and such is the risk of even a mono sub activating too much low-end energy in the room, which can cause more problems than you're trying to fix. Initially, I set the subwoofers up directly underneath the speakers, under the desk, and used the stereo left and right subwoofer option in Trinov to calibrate the system. This utilized two sets of stereo licenses on the Nova, one for the tops and one for the subs, so each speaker could be calibrated in terms of EQ, time alignment, and phase alignment independently. Immediately, the low-end extension was beautiful. These subs measure down to 28 Hz with thick and punchy transients. In Trinnov, toggling the bass management system on and off allows you to swap between bypassing the subwoofers and operating their speakers at their full frequency range, or engaging the subwoofers and a crossover in Trinnov for the full range of four-way calibrated system. And there then arose an issue. Engaging the bass management system and therefore the subwoofers caused a reduction in the low mids on the monitors by about 1.5 to 2, maybe even 3 decibels, and nobody has been able to explain why. Annoyingly, I didn't measure this to show you what this looked like, but it was audible. So what I gained in beautiful low-end extension, I lost in the low mids. Now the problem is that the PSIs are already slightly upper mid-range forward, likely due to their crossover being set at 3300 Hz. There's often a slight peak of frequencies at a speaker's crossover point, depending on what type of crossover filter they use. And the PSIs are fully analog, which is what I love about them, but as a result, they don't employ any DSP to tweak these kinds of issues. In comparison to a low mid-range forward speaker like an ATC, I don't want to be losing low mids on the PSIs. The point of getting the subwoofers was to improve this. So I spoke to Emerging about this. They're the distributor for PSI and Trinnov in the UK. They were very helpful and suggested I try different subwoofer placement combinations, including a mono sub setup. I tried the stereo subs wide under the desk, narrower under the desk, next to each other in an almost mono position, and this definitely helped. I also tried them in the far corners, but this was a complete disaster and resulted in an unintelligible boomy rumble of low end. So the guys at Emerging couldn't replicate the problem, and Trinnov assured us there was no difference to the processing in theory between their left and right stereo mode and the mono LFE mode in relation to the crossover processing, so this phenomenon I was experiencing shouldn't be happening. Now this left me to assume that the low-mid dip upon engaging the bass management in Trinnov was the result of some weird phase shifting in the room, or some frequency nulling caused by destructive sound barrier interference due to a buildup of too much low end in the room. However, I did find a solution. So everyone in audio will tell you, do not put a subwoofer in the middle of the room. It is a theoretical no-no. I even had a rep from Neumann chastise me for even suggesting the idea when I had my Neumann KH750 subwoofer. Well, That because a mono sub in LFE mode solved this problem in this room. I now have a punchy low end with lovely extension down to 28 Hz, so you can really feel the low end. It's great. So either the problem was with the stereo sub setup versus the LFE setup that I'm now using in Trinnov Nova, or it's a room-specific issue. I can't test this in another room, and Emerging couldn't replicate the problem on their end, so we'll never know, but I have since found a problem with Trinnov, which may be contributing to the problem. Trinnov Nova offers an incredibly versatile array of optimization features, including crossover frequency and filter slope options for bass management. What I found was different filter slopes sound best at different frequency points. For example, I've settled on a 40 Hz crossover point with a 48 decibel per octave slope. Now, it's turned out that these filter slopes can cause an audible problem. Even with the mono sub, I was still finding low-mid information dropping out when I engaged the bass management, especially if I set it to 80 or 60 or 100 Hz. Trinnov Nova uses Linkwitz Riley crossovers, which produce a -6 decibel crossover point. The sum of these two filters then in theory delivers a flat voltage output and therefore a flat on-axis amplitude response. In other words, no loss of frequency. So in a nutshell, this loss of frequency should not be happening, yet it is audible. Now, I wonder if it's a Trinnov issue or potentially an analog speaker issue if we're talking about power ratings. If you know, please comment. I'm keen for more research material to find out more about this. Now, I should also stress the problems I experienced in this video are not due to the quality of the PSI subwoofers themselves. They are incredible and they are up there with PMC subwoofers as the best available. In my opinion, fight about that amongst yourselves in the comments. In essence though, what I want you to take away from this video is that yes, there are commonly accepted audio science guidelines to consider when addressing room acoustic issues, but they're not always hard, fast rules. You simply have to investigate what works for you in your room. That said, I ended up selling one subwoofer and making a very special purchase with the cash, but more on that in video 3 of this series. Next episode, we're going to discuss some acoustic treatment solutions that work wonders in my studio, taking it from an acoustic disaster to giving me actually one of the best sounds I've ever had. If you want a free sample master of your next song, I'm offering a no obligation free sample. Click the link in the description for details. I've been Thorne. It's been emotional. See you on the next one.